Thank you for joining us. Our guest this morning is Kurma Murrain. She's also known as Queen Charlotte. She is the Community Program Coordinator at the Mint Museum in Uptown and Randolph, which is the same thing I learned just a moment ago. I'm John Casson. This is the rBeatzRadio Network. Kurma, good morning.
Good morning. Very nice to be here. It's such a cold morning, but this is a warm environment. I love it.
A cool morning in a warm environment. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Sometimes it is a warm morning and, well, it's never a cool environment. But so we're going to talk about AI a little bit this morning. And I thought I'd bring you in because you've worked, let me start a little bit with your background. So you've worked with the Mint Museum for some time as the Community Programs Coordinator, but you didn't always do that. How did you start out?
Oh, well, that was, it is a long story. Let's make it short. I am a poet. Initially, they met me at an event where I was getting an award, and they started to calling me to participate and volunteer at events. I was always doing something with poetry, and the Mint Museum took an interest in me. They started to invite me, and then I became the first poet in residence at the Mint Museum. Moving forward, they called me about 5 years ago to ask me if I wanted to apply for the job for community programs. And I say yes. Of course, it was a long process. It took 4 months for them to hire me, but I've been there for 5 years now.
Tell me about your poetry. You said you write, I assume it's completely original poetry that you write. Do you have a specific genre that you write for, or is it just observational?
Well, it is self-reflective and also about what is going on in my environment. I started writing justice poetry a while ago when all these killings started to happen in the country. But it is self-reflective, basically. And speaking two languages, sometimes I write in English, sometimes I write in Spanish. And it's kind of strange, but the feeling is different.
Do you remember the first poem you wrote for the Mint Museum?
The first poem I wrote for the Mint Museum, I don't remember that specifically, but I remember the most recent one that was for an event called The Warmth of Other Suns, and it was basically based on the book and based on the situation that was happening after the killings of some of the Black folks in the United States.
And where did you read it?
I read it at the Mint Museum.
So there's an open, was it a room, or is it in the middle of the square, like in the mezzanine, or I'm trying to envision where this would be.
We were at the galleries, actually, and there is a big photograph by, her last name is Fords, Linda Fords, and she photographed this tree in all the seasons, and she made a huge, it's like a mural, actually. And I was talking about the trees in my poem and also referring to the book, The Warmth of Other Suns.
Do you remember the poem off the top of your head?
I remember the poem, yes. It is a strange Tuesday. The air is thicker than other Tuesdays. Ida May has her head tilted against the train window, crammed in the color-only section. The atmosphere, stuffy, filled with unspoken words. It feels too early to conjure direful memories. Should I continue?
Please, if you feel comfortable.
She hears somebody calls her name. Maybe the trees grew tired of whooshing and have decided to speak. This Tuesday, Ida May feels like an uprooted tree. A few hours earlier, standing at the threshold, with all her life packed in one bag, the house breathes as if it was haunted, not by ghosts, but by her own stories. The trees in the front yard join her thoughts, whispering dates of funerals. They almost sing, shriek, howl even, trying to bring some wisdom to this doomed world. She will not stay, though. She will not die here, much less for these trees. The fruit of their branches used to quench her thirst and soothe her hunger until the fruit was replaced by bodies suspended like horrid Christmas decorations from Hades. I want to stop here.
Okay. Boy, that is very good. You do an incredible job painting pictures with words.
Thank you so much.
And
sometimes it gets too emotional.
It certainly does. It's emotional hearing it, and you read it with the passion and emotion that causes something that I think if I read that on a sheet of paper without ever hearing your voice, I would sort of create my own voice or someone else's voice, and it may not have the same weight and the same feeling that you give to that. I'm going to start by asking you what you think of AI poetry.
I haven't dared to try that. I really want to use my voice. I want to use my own voice, even though it may have mistakes or it may not be very understandable by some people, but I still want to use my voice. Now I don't condemn the people who are using AI to enhance their poetry or edit or change something about it, but I prefer to be myself and for people to know who I am, really not using AI to make myself look better. But, well, the world is changing, so these are not words that I grave on stone or something like that. It's okay. It's okay to use whatever resources you have to do your art. So, but I haven't dared to use it.
Your work is published, right?
It is published, yeah. Lately, I published the book Coffee, Love, and the American Dream in English and Spanish. And I won Author of the Year in 2021 by Queen City Awards. So that was exciting. And the book is on Amazon. So it is in both languages. And, well, I was very fortunate to have one of the best photographers in Charlotte to do the covers of my books. His name is Jeff Cravata.
Does it bother you that, congratulations on that, does it bother you that now that your book is published, that AI may be using some of your poetry in some of their poetry that someone else, quote, wrote or used a chat program to use? Even if it's not the same, there's elements in there that AI may use when someone says, write me some poetry about social justice. And one day you read something and there's the spirit of your work in there.
I think it will be an honor if my words can inspire different kinds of or different manifestations of art or poetry. I think it will be great that we do this collaboration, even though I am not part of it voluntarily. But we are one world, we are one human race, and actually, my words are not new, even though we call it original, but somebody else has used my words in different ways. So it is kind of a cycle, recycle, and it's beautiful.
The only thing new in the world is a history we don't already know. Huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you think? Have you ever read AI poetry?
I haven't, but I heard that they are using Eminem songs, or they are using AI to create new songs like Eminem or...
You mean Eminem Marshall Mathers, the rap singer?
Yes.
Okay, wow, okay. And so is he using it or someone using it?
No, someone else is using it. So they are discussing what are they going to do with AI or the rise of the artist if they can produce new music using the type of genre that the artist already has.
When I think of the Mint Museum, I think of art. And when I think of art, even though there are all kinds of art, what we're doing now is a form of art, right? But when I think of art in a traditional sense, I think of a painting on a wall. And I think people who aren't very tuned into every nuance and detail, a lot of us think that. And I didn't even know the Mint, for example, had a poet in residence. Or you said you were the first one, and you're the only one. Is that correct?
I am the only one. Yes,
Yeah.
I am the only one poet in residence that the museum has had.
The majority of what Mint Museum is paintings, I think, right?
The majority is paintings, but we have a lot of events for the community as well, and that's how my job comes in place. I am coordinator of community programs. I work with rBeatzRadio, who is the director of community relations, and we create programs specifically for the community. I am Latina, so that's my focus. So we have this party that we have every 2 months, in which we combine Latin music, hip hop, and it's a big event in which about 400 people gather.
Wow. What is it about? They dubbed you Queen Charlotte. Why?
I am not the only one.
There's other Queen Charlottes that people have dubbed?
There are other Queen Charlottes. The poet Hannah Hassan selected 50 African-American women, and I think I am the only Latina, so that's a big honor. They selected 50 African-American women to be Queen Charlotte, since now they have been talking about Queen Charlotte being of African descent, and that's why they are focusing on African-American women. They created a book with our stories, and I had the honor, not only that my story was on stage, but I was one of the dancers sharing the rhythms of my country on stage at the Bell Theater and at the Night Theater.
And your country is Colombia.
And my country is Colombia, yes. There is also a book where you can read our stories, and the book is called I Am Queen Charlotte. So it was an amazing thing. They also hire an artist to make a big bowl with recyclable paper in which we wrote the names of our mentors, our mothers, and the people who have influence in our lives. So the name of my mother is there, and the name of many women that have been important in my life. It is at VAPA, if you want to say it.
It is a what?
At VAPA, the Visual Arts Performing Center that is on North Tryon.
Okay.
700 North Tryon Street.
Okay, it's by the dance studio, right? I think.
Oh, yes, it's across from Charlotte
the Ballet. Mm-hmm. Good. So when I spoke to you yesterday, you weren't aware of AI art generally, but you said you had some people that are close to you that were. What are their thoughts on that?
Well, it has been an amazing job that they are doing with AI and AR. And I don't know the difference between the two of them, but they are using it in their art. Keudis Sanchez was one of our painters in the past party. I forgot to mention that we have live painters while we are enjoying the music at our parties at the Mint Museum.
What do they paint? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
They have 4 hours, which is the length of the party, to produce one painting.
But did they decide what they're going to paint? And does that have anything to do with the event, or is it something?
No, it is completely free.
Okay.
Yeah, but they have 4 hours to produce a painting.
And what have they produced before?
Well, actually, Julio Gonzalez made a painting of me while I was dancing the cumbia. So that was such an honor a few years ago, and that the painting was bought by another friend called Martin Doherty, and is in his living room. But they have done not only people dancing, they have produced pieces about their own countries. We have a lot of Latin American painters and African American painters, so they produce something that is close to their heart. We had Curtis King, who is an African American painter who produced a scene of jazz inspired by Romer Bearden. So there have been a lot of wonderful works that have been created at the Mint Museum. Now, I don't know if you know, but just a couple of months ago, we closed the Picasso exhibition. So many artists were producing paintings inspired by Picasso.
We went to that exhibit. That was interesting, and that was nice that it came around. I liked how they moved and they to different locations and give everyone the chance to see some stuff that you typically would have to go to New York or Chicago to see. You mentioned a few times about, particularly, it seems like the Mint Museum does a lot to honor and respect people of African American descent, Spanish descent, and so forth. And maybe this is a stereotype, but in my mind, when I think of a museum of any kind, I think of old, rich, white people. Is that changing, or are they trying to change it and they're not as successful as they hope to be?
That is true. And we had that discussion because yes, that is the vision that everybody has. The Mint Museum, well, particularly rBeatzRadio and I are sponsoring a group of children from the area across from the Mint Museum Randolph, that is Greer Heights. And they are African American, and we are teaching them about art by bringing them to the museum. I know there was a time where Black people weren't allowed in the museum, and then they were allowed only once a week. So it has been a turmoil because of the history of this country, but they are changing that by including people of all colors, races, origins, especially in the staff. So look at me. I am Black. I am Latina. I speak Spanish. So we are enhancing the color of the museum by creating the DIA committee. That's diversity inclusion committee, and yes, we are doing many things to have people of all origins in the Mint Museum. Now, we also have the recognition of the land of Native American people, the Catawba people. Well, I am forgetting the names now. Please forgive me.
That's okay.
But
so is it working? Are more people organically, not just the people that you're inviting in the special groups of kids, but people generally from the community? Because Charlotte is a very diverse community, significantly so. I moved up here from South Florida where lots of people are Colombian and Haitian and Dominican and everything. And I kind of thought this would be less diverse than it was. And I was pleasantly surprised to see there is a lot of people from all different places. But they don't go to museums. Or at least my perception is that they don't, not common. Is that changing?
It is changing because of the programs that we are offering and the guest speakers that we are having. We are having guest speakers from Asia, from Latin America, even from Africa. I think in the last study that the museum made, the most diversity that we've ever had visiting the museum happened during the Picasso exhibition. So that was a great thing. Now we have a great exhibition called The Vault, which is by 4 couples of African American collectors who are collecting Black art from the United States. And it was a pleasure to see that they have paintings of people I have known personally, like Juan Logan, Nellie Ashford, Arthur Rogers. All these collectors have art from these artists and is now at the museum. The 4 couples are, if I can remember their last names, is the Jacksons, the Terrys, the Diamonds, and the Lees. So they have all African-American art, and it's called The Vault. So I invite you to come to see this. It's a lot of history, is sad history, happy history, movies, paintings, and even there is a collection of Black Santas. So that was a surprise because I never thought about that when I was growing up. I was always looking at this white guy, but I never thought, oh, he's white. But to see this at a museum, I think, oh wow, okay, this I identify completely with this, and
really?
I love it.
That's so funny because you think when you grow up and you see something, you would just perceive, like you said, you don't think of him as black or white. You think of him as Santa Claus, right?
Exactly.
White beard, red suit, right?
Yeah.
But then when you see him black, from a white person's perspective, it's almost jaw-dropping. Black Santa Claus, well, that's just ridiculous. But then you realize, well, wait a minute, Santa Claus is just ridiculous. Let's start with that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it can be the color that you perceive
it's just
them
an
to be.
idea. Yeah, it can be Asian, it can be Native American.
Do you think these kids? By the way, how old are these kids that come to the event? These kids that you're helping from Career Heights?
Oh, they are from middle school.
Middle school. So they're 11, 12, 13 years old, right?
12, 13, and we have teen leaders who are already 17, 18 years old.
Wow. So you've been doing this for a little while then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you see them coming outside of these events?
Some of them are interested in art. I wasn't part of it when this student started to come to the program. Her name is Brianna Washington, and she started taking an interest in art because of the program. Wow. And now she made her internship at what is the museum in? What are the museums in Washington, D.C.?
Is the Met in Washington, D.C.?
No, not a specific museum, but how do you call the area?
DC Metro or the DC?
Well, she had her internship in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
And she's in college now?
She already finished college, and she is helping us with the program. She's creating curriculum and teaching the kids.
Do you think these kids would have a better, just like people your age and below, pretty much always known the internet as an adult for sure. And I'm in the age where half my life we didn't have it, and half of my life we did. But now I'm even used to it, where I couldn't imagine going to work without my computer, or if the internet goes down, I might as well just call it a day, even at home. Do you think kids today, these 11, 12, and 13-year-olds, are going to look at AI and see it just like we see the internet as just another tool to help them create better art? Do you think they'll ignore it completely, or do you think some of them might even try and use it exclusively instead of their creativity?
It's hard to predict, but because they are learning about art and they are learning about how to use color, how to create materials, and how to see art from different perspectives, I certainly wish they can use AI to create great works of art. I was thinking about this morning, about what you said this morning. We didn't have internet when we were growing up, and we had to use our brains. We had to use our creativity if we wanted to do something. We read books and we had great stories. This generation is different, but I have a lot of hope in them because they have all of this. They have a lot of technology in which they can get lost, but in a positive way, and they can be great artists by using all the resources they have.
I went on to, when I learned about doing this interview last week, I went on to ChatGPT, or one of those, like OpenAI, and I asked OpenAI to draw me a picture of a winding road leading to nowhere. I think I said a winding yellow brick road leading to nowhere with surrounded by forest, and it did a pretty good job. But when I looked at it, there was nothing about it that made me go, wow. Just like my hope was it would draw me in. If I actually see a painting and it goes around the corner and I can't quite see where it goes, that I imagine what's on the other side, or walking down that trail, or feeling that. And for some reason I didn't get, it did exactly what I said, but for some reason it didn't really resonate with me. And I thought, is that in my imagination? Because I know a human being didn't do that. Because if I knew a person drew that, the first thing I'd be looking for is the kind of nuance that only a person would include. Maybe the way they put the leaves on a tree, or maybe there's an animal or the eyes poking around the corner, or just something I didn't ask for that makes it delightful or inspiring or entertaining or something. And I didn't get that with art. And then I started thinking a little bit deeper. What is it when I look at art? What goes through my mind? And I don't know how unique I am, but there's three things that typically go through my mind. First of all, oh my God, this painting is how many $1 million? Which I know sounds greedy and capitalistic, but I can't help but think that. But I understand the investment aspect in it, but I also don't in some ways. The second thing I think of, though, usually is, what was the person, this might be actually the first thing, what was the person thinking when they drew this specific person? And I try to, even if I never met the person, which of course I haven't in almost all cases, what was their state of mind? Were they dark? Were they depressed? Were they excited? Were they happy? Were they sexual? What is it on their mind that made them draw this specific thing at this specific time? And that makes me want to study a little bit more about their life and their history and all those kind of things. With AI, you just can't do that, because it's so then the next thought is, with AI, what did AI find to draw from? I'm looking at this painting and I'm going, what did AI find to make this painting this way? Why do they make the bricks this certain size instead of smaller or bigger? I didn't specify, but it looked to me like this was a road in, if I had to guess, Italy or Greece or something. And I didn't say that. It could have been anything. In fact, after I wrote it and I was reading my words and waiting for the image to generate, I was thinking, I wrote yellow bricks, and I thought, I wonder if it's going to show something that has to do with Dorothy or the Wizard of Oz or something. And it didn't. It figured that out, I guess. So, and you said you had friends that both use AI?
Well, yeah, I was going to talk about Keudi Sanchez, who created a piece at the last party that we had last Friday. He was explaining to me that sometimes he uses another artist's art, but he always asks, so that's a good thing. He takes pictures of this, and then he recreates the painting depending on what he wants to enhance or he wants people to see. So he recreates the art using different layers. Then he takes the photograph, then he digitizes it, and he uses animation. So you can use your phone, look at the painting, and see the painting moving or coming out of the frame. So it is amazing. And the other one that I want to talk about is Rosalia Torres Weiner. She is a Mexican artist. She also has painting in Washington. I don't know why I can't remember the name. The Smithsonian.
Smithsonian, of course, yes.
Of course, yeah. She has paintings at the Smithsonian, and they have used her paintings for covers of textbooks. Anyways, she has an exhibition at the Mint Museum Randolph called Guiding Winds, talking about immigration, and she's using AI or AR in her paintings. And the way she does is that since her main focus is activism and immigration, she is making her paintings of the dreamers, the people that came to this country when they were very young. And she's using hummingbirds. Hummingbirds, it seems to be the bear in Mexico. And you can use your phone, point at the painting, and when the hummingbird appears, you can tap it, and you can hear the story of the dreamers that she has painted.
So she has successfully married art, science, and technology.
Exactly.
And in those things brought emotion, nuance, semblance of being, all of those things. So that it really is a form of art. So that's kind of maybe the future of art really is. AI is not going to generate art, because if it did it on its own, it would look like the arts we see in hotels that we just look at and go, it's a painting above my bed I will never remember.
It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have history, as you were mentioning. You can ask questions about what was the period of history that this was created, or what was the artist's thinking, or what was his or her state of mind. AI can produce beautiful things, but I don't think they will never touch our soul.
Tell us what's going on at the minute.
Well, just next week we have Ladies' Night around the Vault. So you can go to the galleries. The galleries are going to be open till 9 o'clock on August 17th. There's going to be a cash bar, and you can just enjoy the company of other ladies and visit the galleries. Also, we are going to have an HBCU meeting on the 25th of August, also at the Museum Uptown around the Vault, in which, because we are talking about African-American collectors, we are gathering African-American universities to visit the galleries that night, and it's free. And our great event that is Mint to Move is going to happen in October.
Mint to movies?
Mint to Move.
Mint to Move, okay.
Mint to Move, and it's sponsored by Arts and Science Council, which is a great thing because it's been 11 years of Mint to Move, and it's the first time we have a sponsor. So we are...
Tell us what Mint to Move is.
Mint to Move is a big party, is Latino hip-hop, line dance. We have dance lessons, we have live painters, and we invite the organizations to share what they are doing in the community. We've had... tables with the Latin American Chamber of Commerce, the Latin American Coalition, La Noticia. So it is just a great event. The DJ is Carlos Lebron, who is one of the best DJs in the country, or that's what...
he says. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what everybody thinks.
Okay, good.
He is absolutely amazing with his mix and his presence, his music, and the energy he's putting into these events. So that is basically Mint to Move. It's a diverse event, inclusive. Everybody's welcome, and the floor is amazing. I mean, you are dancing at the museum, looking at the view is
Yep.
Well, just imagine that. That is going to happen on October 6th, and we have a special guest. That doesn't happen very often, but we have Eddie Cabrera, who is a great singer. He's going to be singing at the beginning of the event for about an hour.
That's very full. So is this limited to? Is this open to people who just want to buy a ticket, or can anyone go there, or is it a special invite?
It is open to the public. Yes, the tickets are $14 and $11 for members.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's fantastic. Kurma Murrain, also known as Queen Charlotte, Community Programs Coordinator at the Mint Museum, Uptown and Randolph. I want to thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day.